Hey everybody, this is Tip Fairchild and Dan Koppen with the Past Our Prime show. And we've got a special guest today, Kelly Pickard with Augusta Sportswear. I'm down here in Augusta right now. We've had some great meetings. We're going to chat a little bit about the World Series today. Just was on, just wrapped up. Dan, tell me about it. I know that we had some action in it. We had some bets going on. Like what's the scoop? What were your thoughts on watching those games?
My thoughts are I'm going to refer to you as the ex-baseball has-been wannabe guy. And most of those bets that were laid, there was a text that was sent to you. It's like, hey, who do you got tonight? And
Yes.
One game, hey, my feeling is this. Otherwise, the Dodgers have about 70 to 80 to 90 to $100 million more in salary cap or salary. So when it goes 6 games, I think that's a win for the Rays.
I agree. The Rays, though, and we're going to get into some of the controversial side of what happened and everything. And we have a non-baseball person with Kelly, right?
I think we need to back this up. I would not be doing Augusta justice if we didn't talk about how the Braves didn't get there.
That's right.
Right? So we were all a little disappointed about that. So let's just back that up a second.
Our super producer, Des, is a big Braves fan also.
Kelly, why do you want to go back and talk about something that was just bad? They didn't win. Why do we have to talk about that?
I'm still upset. Because we're still, we're still crying about that. That was hard for us. We gave up some wins in other sport categories because we thought we were giving some good vibes to the Braves, and then it didn't happen. So we got to set the record straight that that's still a little sad.
You got to teach your Falcons. You got to teach the Falcons situational football too.
I know, for real.
Dan, let's talk about the Moneyball thing because this is important, right? I mean, this is like the changing of baseball, and it started a while ago, with the Oakland A's, with Billy Beane, the idea of analytics and how it's not necessarily as much about like the situation, like with the, you got your guy on the mound in Snell who's dealing, and you just got to let it ride. It's like, hey, the computer says now is the time to take him out and have another person, step in here. Where my opinion on this, and you tell me, I'm never in a million years taking Nolan Ryan out of a game, Roger Clemens out of a game, like Gibson out of a game, Sandy Koufax out of a game, right? You ride with that person, and we saw that happen and backfire. So football's a little easier, but I mean, you got to stick with your guy, right?
Well, I don't know if it's easier. So did Cash, is that the manager's name?
Yeah, Cash. Yep.
Did Cash come out and say it was an analytical thing, and the number said to take him out at that point? Because correct me if I'm wrong. That was his second hit that he gave me.
Second hit, 70 pitches in the 6th inning. I mean, I think 8 strikeouts, like just dealing, like blowing through everybody. And one of the things they say is, hey, third time through the lineup is tough, right? I mean, I pitched, like third time through the lineup is tough. Like when you face guys that are really strong, they might bait you early on in the game to get a pitch later in the game, right? Like, so they might make themselves look bad swinging at a curveball the first inning to try to get you to throw a first pitch curveball in the 7th inning when it matters, right? So I understand that, like, this goes in and out some of, like, in terms of like what's right, what's wrong. But when you got a guy that's dealing like that, I think you got to roll with him. And I haven't heard, like you said, I mean, I'm just assuming that was the move, and we know it won. But, he didn't say, hey, the analytics said so. It's just that's the way the Rays played all year.
Look, how much you paying that guy one? And you're paying him all that money to win those type of games. You know what I mean? I mean, like you said, like Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, like back in the day when all this analytics and numbers and people were, weren't thinking they're too smart, they were just going to ride their horses. And especially, I mean, he's throwing a 2-hitter into the 6th. Let him go a little bit. I mean, let him get himself out of a jam. Sometimes that's what.
That's right. You know those good names, Kelly? You know Roger Clemens, right?
So sometimes those athletes need that. They need to feel that pressure, and then that gets them back locked in. That's what they get paid to do, and that's what the manager does. He's got to have some feel. Remember let's put it back to football too. Remember the Seahawks Patriots Malcolm Butler interception? That was all feel.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. Actually, I remember it. I don't remember it, but I remember it, right? Like, it's one of those things. The Super Bowl is usually a little hazy.
Yeah, but it comes back. You just don't make it an AFC championship. It's okay. But it comes back to having a feel of the game and the flow of the game and looking at the situation independently and not making the decision before. Yeah, in that situation, Belichick is going to call a timeout maybe 9 out of 10 times. Get the defense right, get the right personnel. But also, he's one of those guys. He's looking at everything. He's looking across the field. How are they doing? What are they do? You know, what's the coach doing? Like, in that situation, it wasn't a numbers thing. It was, I feel this is the right move. I'm not going to call timeout now. Let them make the mistake. But yeah, you got to ride your big dog.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of tough to watch with that. And you know, I love the movie Moneyball. You know, and I was playing during like that time of when people were trying to find talent for inexpensive prices, right? You know, like where you have a huge payroll, but guys are looking at on base percentage and like this person really is undervalued, right? And that's how that Rays roster is put together. So I thought one of the funny things at the end, you know, of the broadcast, you know, and we'll get into the COVID stuff too, but was I think it was Buck said, you know, they'll be back next year. You know, like the Rays will be back next year. And like the way that I look at it, I don't know. Like they might be, you know, but it's not because the like guys they have on the field are signed to long-term deals and they're all young and they're all, you know, it's like they're put into these roles, right? Like super like role type guys that do well. Now the Rays are young and they have like an incredible bullpen and everything, but at the same time, I think over the course of time, 160 game season, the analytic thing plays out. But when you get in that heat of the moment, like a game 6 in the World Series, you go with a guy that, you know, there's a reason that person's getting paid, you know, and has won a Cy Young. I think you stick with the guns there. You know, we've hit that topic a few times, but it just felt that way to me.
Look, do you think like what? I mean, if you look back at the history of the salary and the top salaries, I want to say the Marlins in early 2000s was probably the worst. I think they were 25th to win the World
and they won the World Series there.
They won, and what happened the next year? I think it was dismantled.
They I think finished dead last. It was a fire sale, you know, of anybody, and that's what I'm wondering if that happens with the Rays or not, you know.
But even if there's a 162 game season now, with that payroll, do the Rays make it to where they are with the Yankees? You know, maybe the Yankees at, you know, the top payroll in the league get healthy enough, or they get their pitching together where that team, where it doesn't have the all-stars that the Yankees have, that the Dodgers, they just have more assets to play with.
Right. The next big thing that happened in that game, you know, well, after the game, Dan, right, was, middle Kelly, Justin Turner, third baseman, you know, all-star, great player, gets pulled from the game. And, you know, normally you think an injury, a lot of times what, Dan? Probably hamstring, something like that. A lot of times like at a baseball level, like that happens a lot.
Don't talk to me about baseball injuries.
Baseball injuries.
He probably got
hangnail, I knew that was coming. But like what ends up happening in the game, right? He gets pulled. And then all of a sudden, you know, you find out during the post game that it was because of a positive.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Now,
yeah.
I've been traveling the last 24 hours down here in meetings, so I haven't been catching up the news, but it was a monster story when I was getting on the plane yesterday.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And it was starting to come out. It was like, hey, got pulled from the game.
I'm surprised they didn't pull the game, like stop the game. No.
That's like the question, right? Or what happens, Dan, right? Like what happens if the Rays win that game? Do they play? When do they play a game 7?
No, they don't.
We waiting 2 weeks for a game 7.
I think in this time, I think they would wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would think that they would have to.
Yeah, so that would have been really interesting to see. Like, do we wait 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, to watch a game 7 of a World Series? Because that might have happened. But the bigger controversy is that he came, the Dodgers win, Turner's gone like off the field, escorted out, and then, but he's on the field celebrating after, you know, unmasked.
Wow.
It caused a lot of stir. I mean, I'd be devastated if my first world championship, and Dan's won 2 Super Bowls, so he knows, if you couldn't celebrate one of those years, Dan, I mean, you're heartbroken, right?
Yeah. You know, we actually have an employee that works here. His son is extremely good in football. I think he's a quarterback. He's probably going to kill me that I don't remember. But championship game was this past Saturday. Mm-hmm. That week at school, he got pulled, got a COVID test, couldn't play. Senior year, couldn't play in his championship game, couldn't celebrate, couldn't be. I mean, how horrible is that, you know?
It's everything's relative, right? Like that's a big thing at the high school level, big thing at the college level, but you know, Dan in a Super Bowl, you got to get out there and celebrate, right? I mean, that's tough. I don't know, Dan. You tell me.
I get everything you're saying, and you know, you're an athlete as well, Tip, or wanted to be an athlete.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
We joke. We have fun.
Almost.
We can.
Almost.
You know, I get that, and it's a life-changing moment. It's maybe a once in a lifetime a moment. You know, I've fortunate to experience it twice. I've experienced losses 3 times. You know, I can tell you they're not fun either. So, you know, but it's still it's a momentous occasion, and I get the side. Hey, you're an athlete. You work all year and all your life to get to this point, and you want to go out there and celebrate. This is 2020 is just messed up, you know, and everybody's going through a lot and dealing with a lot of things and making sacrifices. So if you're one of those guys, professional athlete that people look up to, I'm going to say just stay away. And look, people can make their own decision. I'm not that. I'm not like one of those guys that keeps people locked up and so scared of COVID. You know, I'm not scared of it personally. I'm more scared of it for people around me, or you know, my in-laws or my parents or something like that. Right. I'd be more scared. I'd be more scared for my teammates. I'd be more scared for my teammates' relatives. When you put
I think that's why it was a tough. That's why it felt like a tough look, right? And that's why, and again, I can't wait to kind of get into the news on the flight home tonight so I can do some reading. But I mean, that's where I would be more, you know, maybe just a little more aware, where it was like, yeah, as much as I want to party at a World Series championship, because it's like just
obviously stay in that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy around it. You know, he was out there with the trophy and everything after, and it's tricky. It was a tough. It was kind of a tough look all around. It was a little interesting post-game show overall, right?
Don't you think that also?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Well, I was going to say, you know, we're dealing with youth athletics, and you know, we were talking about homeschooling earlier, and don't you think that the whole thing about COVID too, you know, no matter what salary you have or what level you're at, it really does humanize, you know, your general judgment, and no matter what salary, right? And it just humanizes a lot of different elements. Because the youth athletics is dealing with the same kind of controversy. Like, what do you do if a kid has it? You know, do you still play? Do you quarantine for 2 weeks? You know, do you pull the parents? Like, so I just think it to me, it still humanizes no matter what paycheck level you're at. You know, COVID is COVID right now, and it's how you handle it and how you handle yourself a little bit.
Yep, you got it. So, Dan, anything else on the World Series? I mean, just a quick thing here. We just wanted to make sure we chatted about it. I don't know if you had anything else.
Did anybody else see Manfred in the postgame?
I wasn't sure if you're going to bring it up, Dan. I'm ready.
No. Because Turner, what happened with Turner is pretty much overshadowing the commissioner of baseball just being completely bombed, giving out the trophy.
Is that what it was, Dan? The excuses are, you know, like the headphones are. We've got a little delay because of the distance now. We're in the same room doing this together, so it's a little bit easier. But you know, we're on webcam and everything right now. It's a little bit delayed, so I can understand it. But you know, he had the headsets in and he could hear himself, but it didn't seem right. Something felt off there, you know. And I'm not sure if it was, you know, too many beers or something, but it was a very, very interesting post game for a World Series because of the COVID thing, because of the MVP award ceremony was very different because the commissioner was having trouble, you know, speaking.
I didn't watch, unfortunately, but what did they do regarding fan participation? Did they have, you know, Zoom screens? Did they have no
so
fans?
The World Series did 2 locations, like kind of bubble locations, but they allowed fans in. What was there, Dan? 20,000, 10,000 there at the game?
Yeah,
10 or 20,000.
I don't know. Yeah, I would say right in there.
Yeah. So it still felt, it was actually loud.
Really?
You know, they were pumping the sound and it was loud. It was nice. It was a, you know, a good time. So, yep.
Yeah,
that's what I've got.
It's hard to watch without, you know, a packed stadium, especially when it's a World Series. It's a shame.
Yeah. I actually lived in South Philly when the Phillies won the World Series, and that just the fan level and participation was just out of this world. So I was just curious if fans were allowed to be in the stadium and celebrate and what that process was like.
Yeah, Kelly, we don't want to talk about Philly.
Yeah, we won't get into the Philly thing, but
that could be a whole nother show.
We'll bring you in.
You can have me back. Yeah.
We'll bring you in along with Mark Botterell, Derek Ernst, you know, the whole Augusta crew. We do a ton of work with these guys at Squad Locker, you know, great brands that you guys have here and everything. And we'll bring you in to do some talk about some of the product and everything at some point.
Mark Botterell, I think he's been on some of your webinars before. He's a wealth of knowledge.
He's a riot. We'll talk soccer with him, Dan. So I'll have something to talk to him about when we get Mark on here, okay?
You'll have one person.
Yeah, well, you can take that day off.
Yeah, I might not be there.
All right, Dan, that's what we got on the World Series. So, you know, next year, hopefully we have a 162 game season and then a normal playoff. But at least, you know, at least the sport got through it, like kind of like basketball, kind of like hockey, you know, where we're getting through some things and playing some games and giving people something to watch, which is still a big piece of what we need.
Absolutely. That's what everybody's trying to do, is just get through it. Thanks,
you got
Kelly.
it. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me crash. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.